Okay, copy. Good morning once again, everybody, and welcome to Adria International Raceway in northern Italy, which is just about an hour's drive north of the city of Venice. We are here for free practice 2 of the TCR Europe Trophy. This is a contest where some of Europe's finest drivers from around the various European TCR championships are getting together to see if they can be named the best in Europe for 2017. Hello everybody, my name's Scott Woodward here to guide you through the action for this second 30-minute session here after a very cold, murky and very damp looking free practice 1, but it was completely dry. Very cold conditions with low temperatures, and the car's now getting ready to head out on slightly warmer conditions here for race 2. If you want to catch up with all the action, there's the web address in the bottom left corner, www.tcr-series.tv. You can also watch this live stream on YouTube and also on the TCR Europe Facebook page. And hello to everyone who is watching around the world, whatever time it may be, in whatever continent you may be viewing this. So, to give you a quick update as to what's happened so far, we had testing yesterday and we had free practice this morning. A bit warmer for free practice 2. Air temperature 10 degrees, track 14 degrees. 87% humidity. So still a little bit chilly out there, but the temperatures are up, which hopefully should help some of the drivers. No less this man right here, the legend that is Gabriele Tarquini in the Hyundai i30N TCR. He is not eligible to score any points this weekend. He's simply using it as a bit more of a well-publicized test session to keep developing the new car. And he wants to try and improve himself. Here's the entry list for the weekend. Some notable names: Kevin Giacon in the Opel, Luca Enxler and Antti Buri, as well as Francisco Abreu, who has been successful in the Iberico and Portuguese championships. Of course, Gabriele Tarquini, as well as Giacomo Altoe, who was fastest in the first practice session. We'll take you through that in a moment, as well as Florian Toma and Giovanni Altoe, who is the father of Giacomo and the owner of the Adria circuit. And of course, do watch out for the likes of Maxime Putti and the Brit Josh Files, double TCR Germany champion and also TCR Middle Eastern champion. So we're about to get the second practice session underway. Here is one of the local favourites and one of the local drivers which the Italian fans will be cheering on. This is Luigi Ferrara. Did pretty well in practice this morning, 8th quickest, but in some impressive times towards the end of yesterday's test session. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, you'll see at the bottom of the screen that he actually says he has 4 points. Now, for those who didn't see free practice 1, I'll explain the reasons why. Because there is the point system here, effectively, there is essentially a pre-qualifying period where 1 point per event is allocated to each driver who took part in any TCR event during this season. Another driver who there's a maximum of 5 on offer. One of the drivers that has the maximum of 5 is this man, the Finn Antti Buri, in car number 10, in his TCR Germany Audi RS3. And so there is a points table, which I'm sure will come up in a few moments' time. There's Maxime Petit, who's one of the TCR Benelux stars. He's also on the 5 points, so he's managed to get himself up the order in that respect. There's some very good young drivers in the mix. Petit is one of them. Giacomo Altoe in there as well. Josh Files is also making his waves across Europe and around the world in TCR circles. And also drivers such as Ermanno Dionisio. Here is the point standings, effectively in alphabetical order. So Abreu, Buri, Comte, Engstler, Files, Giacomo Altoe, Grigoriev, Kansas, Kralev, and Putty are the top 10, all on 5 points because they've all completed 5 qualifying rounds. And as well, we have Toma, Tokalchev, Ferrara, and the mix. That's the 13 drivers that have gone ahead and completed the qualifying rounds to gain the points that they need. Everyone else either appearing for the first time or has not raced in a qualifying round. So the car's heading out of the garage. Here is fastest man in practice, Giacomo Altoe. He was quickest, but only by about 0.04 of a second from the maestro himself, Gabriele Tarquini, in the Hyundai. It was Maxime Petit who was 3rd quickest from Josh Files in P4. And then Francisco Abreu, Antti Buri, Giovanni Altoe, Luigi Ferrara, Aurelien Comte, and Kevin Giacon were in the top 10 for that first session. A couple of bits of news from what happened in that session. The 2 Liquimoli Golfs of Engstler and Toma did not set a time, quite simply because they didn't feel they needed to. So they simply just sat out the first session and are going to go out and do some running in this second session. Also, Josh Files was only really bedding in brakes for the first session. I had a quick word with him before we started the second free practice broadcast. But this session, he's getting a bit more serious because, of course, this is the final session before they get into the all-important 2-part qualifying session that will set the grid for the first race of tomorrow, with the finishing order of race 1 deciding the grid for race 2, but with the top 10 reversed. So, quite simply, if you finish 10th in race 1, you'll start for race on the front of the grid for race 2. Green flag flies around the circuit as the Adria International Raceway bursts back into life. And the TCR Europe Trophy cars will head out onto circuit. The tripping out 8 different manufacturers here represented. So some of the best manufacturers in TCR here this weekend. And that includes the likes of Seat, Opel, Peugeot, Volkswagen, Audi, Alfa Romeo, Hyundai, Honda. I think I may have got that right on all 8 of those. There's Francisco Abreu waiting to go out as field makes its way onto the circuit. Now, of course, the second free practice, this will be very key. I would expect a few of these drivers will be running more qualifying runs and going for single lap pace because, of course, in a few hours' time, they will have to try and put their cars on pole position later on. And a couple of cars haven't gone out straight away. One car which we didn't see in practice this morning was the Bulgarian driver, which is number 44, and that's Plamen Kralev in the red Audi. There is Plamen. And he's someone who's been running in the Italian series this year with relative success. And he is part, and the Team Nova driver they're looking on. They are the team that are overseeing Francisco Abreu's outfit. And, there is one driver who we were expecting to be here this weekend, which was Jose Manuel Perez Aicar, but he does not appear to have appeared this weekend, which is a shame. He is someone who's been very prominent in TCR endurance circles and has actually won the TCR Endurance Championship very recently in his Seat. So there is Josh Files, someone who is one of the favourites for this weekend, and he's actually in a car that is a Honda Civic, but it's not his Honda Civic because he has been running mainly with Pyro Motorsport, but he attends this weekend with Target Competition. And here's another car to watch out for. This is Aurelien Comte. And finally, for the first time this weekend, we get to see the 2 Liquimoli Engstler Volkswagen Golfs. And here is one of the men leading the charge, Luca Engstler, who is the son, of course, of Franz Engstler. And very distinctive in their Liquimoli colours. And the driver behind him is the young Swiss driver by the name of Florian Toma. A couple of these cars just simply doing some installation laps to kind of bed the setup in and get the car ready to do some more longer runs throughout the session. There's Antti Buri, car number 10. TCR Germany runner this year at the wheel of that Audi. He's 8th, he's finished in the standings. He's going out for one of his first few times runs, as is Luca Engstler. And the first couple of laps for these guys will get an initial indication, but in terms of true pace, you really need to kind of go for the first 5 or 10 minutes or so before you get some true times on there. Fastest time that was set by Giacomo Altoe was a 1 minute 19.851, and then Tarquini's time was only 400ths behind on a 1 minute 19.890. The rest of the top 10 down to 8th place in Luigi Ferrara's Alfa Romeo was 1 minute 20s, and then the time spread for competitive times was about 3.2 seconds. So fairly close field out there. The top 10 is looking pretty condensed as it is. You see Antti Buri go through a very tricky chicane, and that's going to be one key section of the circuit, of course. You come out of the hairpin in the middle of the circuit, down towards the short straight, and then that chicane is going to be very critical for overtaking, particularly with the tyre stacks in the middle, because trying to fit 2 TCR cars in there at once is not going to be easy. The rest of these guys just winding up for a lap. I think Antti, that's just simply an installation lap for him. First couple of competitive times are coming up on the board, and top of the time straight away goes Kevin Giacon in the Dayglow Orange Technodome Opel Astra. And this is Daniele Caparari, who finished the session 16th this morning in free practice 1. Looking to try and build a little bit more pace if he can. And as you can see, it's a little bit brighter, a little bit warmer here this morning as we get to the later part of the morning in the second free practice session. We've had running this morning from some of the support championships. There's a little bit more rubber that's gone down onto the circuit. That should mean the time should be a little bit faster for some people. Luigi Ferrara has gone to the top of the time straight away. He's pumped in a 1:21.874. Purple sectors across the board. So we'll see how long that will stay. Maxime Potti has also put in his first flying lap as an installation. That's a 1:54, so that's not really true pace. And looks to me as if the majority of the field, about half the field at least, is out on track, including this man, Caparari. And Caparari is currently set 3rd in the times, 1:33.337. But that was, I'm sure, probably more of an out lap or an in lap into the pits. So just to give you an idea of where some of the drivers have come from, of course, some of the best supported TCR series in Europe are the likes of the ADAC TCR Germany Championship. You have TCR Italy. Benelux also has a couple of drivers out here this weekend. You have a couple of drivers out from the TCR Scandinavian Series. And there's also championships that case to it, like the Iberico and Portuguese Championships, as well as Scandinavia, and even as far as the Baltic Championship as well. That's something mixed as well. And of course, next year we get to add TCR UK to the list as well. So watch out for some of the drivers from that championship potentially being in this contest come this time next year. Well, another rapid time is coming from Maxime Potti, and the WRT Volkswagen has gone to the top of the times, 1:21.670. That's not his ultimate fastest time of the weekend so far, because his best time when he took 3rd in free practice 1 was 1.4 seconds quicker than that. So, of course, these guys just bedding themselves back into the session, getting used to the slightly warmer conditions and the more rubbered-in track, which means it will give them, hopefully, a little bit more confidence and give them a bit more feedback on their setup. Quick shot of Ollie Kangas. That and this car as well, Kevin Giacon. 2 cars you definitely can't miss in the order because they are bright colours. And Giacon is somebody who finished 3rd in the TCR Italian Championship earlier on this year. So he's definitely a dark horse to take success. And that Opel to Astra TCR is getting stronger and stronger with every weekend that they drive all around the world. So that'll be possibly a very formidable car. And it's been in the hands of drivers such as Pierre-Yves Cortals in the TCR International Series, as well as Matto Homola as well. Should point out, as we did in the free practice 1 broadcast, that you might be wondering where are some of the top drivers from the TCR International Series. Simple question is, if any of them were in the top 10 points as of September 30th, they were not eligible to compete in this championship. So it gives a few more drivers that maybe either aren't regulars in the TCR International Series or sort of are more top drivers in their local sort of national and regional championships a chance to shine and get some glory and become the best in Europe. So some drivers you may not have seen too many times out this season in other national championships because of wherever you may have been in the world. You get a chance to see some drivers who may cause 1 or 2 surprises. And I think Maxime Potti who is currently still top of the times now. He's gone to a 1:21.361. Should be one to watch out for. Now, this is Josh Files. I should say that it is Josh Files. I was getting confused because Giacomo Altoi's name popped up on the bottom of the screen. As Kevin Giacon comes back into pit lane, currently sat in third quickest. Now, Giovanni Altoi is in fourth place, the father of Giacomo and owner of this circuit. Giacomo, actually, in fact, on screen right now, is going purple in sectors 1 and 2 as Luca Engstler goes to the top of the times with his proper first flying lap, and that is 1:21.047. Now then, what can Giacomo do on this lap? He comes towards the timing line, and the Honda now goes quickest, 1:20.631. And in second place straight away is Luca Engstler's teammate, Florian Thoma, the young Swiss driver, up into second, 1:20.905. And Giovanni Alto is also gone even quicker, so the Volkswagen seem to have it at the moment, because they are currently second to fifth in the standings. It's Giacomo Altoi's Honda for target competition, 1:20.631, and then it's Thoma, Engstler, Altoi, and Maxime Putti to lock out the rest of the top five. It's now second to sixth now, because Francisco Abreu, the Iberico and Portuguese front runner, is now up to P6. The Volkswagen seem to have it here at the moment. They're showing their true pace here, but don't count out the Hondas, because they seem to be the main rivals here, as Giacomo Altoi is already on a personal best, and in fact session best first sector. Here is Luca Engstler. Finished about 12th in the main standings, but he was top rookie this season and has done incredibly well to adapt to TCR. And we're seeing more and more younger drivers looking at TCR as a very viable option for them to come through. Of course, we've got the likes of Giacomo Altoi, Franz Engstler, Florian Thoma. They're the ones which are looking to be the stars of the future in potentially TCR International and beyond, if that's what they choose to do. Now, Giacomo Altoi has further improved his time by going through in a 1:20.393, so the times are starting to come down now. Luca Engstler has done a 1:20.744 on that last lap, and Florian Thoma has gone to third. He's fractions behind his teammate on a 1:20.779. Still no appearance yet from Gabriele Tarquini, as Hermano Dionisio comes across the line and goes to 12th quickest. There is Luigi Ferrara. Did pretty well at the end of testing yesterday, but is looking to try and improve in the Alfa Romeo. And that's been successful this season with a couple of wins, notably in the hands of David Kajaya at the opening rounds of the International Series this year, and that was in his home country of Georgia. So the Alfa has got race-winning credentials. In fact, pretty much almost all the cars in this field have race-winning credentials, including the brand new Hyundai, who, if you didn't tune into the International Series coverage from Zhejiang in China, Gabriele Tarquini took the Hyundai to its first race victory on its first ever race weekend. So that is certainly something that has potential, as Plamen Kralev goes 12th quickest on his first flying lap of the Adria International Circuit, 1:23.864, to just be not too far away from the top 10. To reach the top 10, he's going to have to find about another 1.6 seconds or so to get himself a little bit further up the order. Already just over 10 minutes gone in the session. Engstler has improved his time on a 1:20.523 to bring the gap down between himself and Giacomo Altoi in this session to just under a tenth and a half, with a fastest final sector of anyone else, as Antti Burri moves up to 9th quickest, 1:21.952, as Plamen Kralev clouts over the curb. That's going to be a very key part of the circuit, as we mentioned, and slipstream is going to be a premium also because of the long straights. If you've got a car that's set up to be quick in a straight line, you might get the advantage here, but as Kralev locks up a little bit, the young Belgian driver in the wheel of car number 44. Out of the final couple of corners. And he's someone that actually has very vast experience. He's actually raced before in the FIA Formula 2 Championship and its previous guys. He's also done International GT Open, he's raced Ferraris, he's done a little bit of GP2 as well. So he's been someone who's been mainly racing GTs and single-seaters, but then came across the touring cars in 2014 in the on the European scene, and appeared in TCR this year and actually took 5th place in the championship, as well as 9th in the Touring Car Cup. Now then, here's also from Italy, of course, the man himself, Gabriele Tarquini. Now, what can he do on his first proper flying lap? Because he is now out of the pit lane. He hasn't set a competitive time just yet. That's the reason why he's all the way down the tyres. But knowing Tarquini, the wily old fox that he is, he won't stay there for long. Now, he is setting personal bests in sectors 1 and 2, as you'd expect. Antti Burri goes up to 8th in the times on a 1:21.443 as the Alfa Romeo team of V-Action Racing continue to work on the car. Now, Plamen Kralev is one to watch now. P10, but he's just set the fastest second sector of anybody. So we didn't see him in the first session, but possibly he's another dark horse to watch out for. The fact that he was 5th in the TCR Italy standings this year is something definitely to take into consideration. Here is Plamen, down to the final couple of corners. Let's see what his final sector's been like. He should go up through the top 10. He does, up to P4. So an impressive run from the Bulgarian driver to jump up onto a 1:20.870, and he's only less than half a second off the fastest time. So Plamen Kralev could be one of the surprises this weekend, and that Audi in the right hands is very, very quick. Of course, we've seen the likes of Stefano Camini and Fabrice Vervish at the wheel of this car. And there's about 4 or 5 of them in the entry this weekend, so the Audi's certainly a very formidable car. But it's still the Honda that tops the times, 1:20.393, Giacomo Altoe in car number 21. There's another manufactured car, is Aurélien Comte. Still not happy with the back end of that car. He had a spectacular sort of moment midway through the first session when it was relatively cold and the back end sort of stepped out and he had to plant the throttle and counter steer to bring the front end back around again. He did that a little bit later on in session 1. Comte currently sits an impressive 7th in that 308. Across the line and stays in 7th place, but did his personal best first sector on that time. But you can see the car maybe set up a little bit to oversteer just a tiny bit. Meanwhile, here comes Tarquini up onto the timing line. Across the start and finish line he goes, and goes to the fastest top of the times with a fastest final sector of anyone, 1:20.260 to go over a 1/10 of a second clear from Giacomo Altoe. So it's currently positions reversed as it was in session 1. And let's see if Gabrielli's got anything left under the sleeve. It's great to see that this Hyundai, of course, obviously in the wheel of, with somebody as experienced as Gabrielli at the wheel of it, helping with the development, and also another touring car legend in Alain Menu. Of course, they've got a very competent team behind them, lots of experience in touring car championships of other areas as well. They've brought some of the WRC outfit to give them some advice on what they should go for in terms of parts and how to engineer the car properly. And you can see it's working because Tarquini's time now, he's put in a personal best and also the fastest first sector of anyone so far. So he is somebody who will want to improve on that time. And as we said, we did get sub 1:20 lap times with both Altoe and Tarquini into the 1:19s. It was a high 1:19s, but it's quick nonetheless. Now we'll have to see what Altoe has got up his sleeve. We're just keeping track. Now, Gabrielli's hasn't set the fastest second sector, so I wonder possibly if he's backed off. He hasn't. He's probably just aborted that lap and gone for another one. So I wonder if maybe he's had some problems with some traffic. As he comes across the timing line, he'll look to go and do another flying lap here. Now I'd imagine that he may be possibly running on long run pace here, mate, on that side. There's a big lock up into turn 1 from the Hyundai. Out of turn 2. Onto the long back straight where it sort of kinks to the right for turn 3 and then the double apex of 4 and 5. So there's your standings on the front, on the bottom of the screen. It's Tarquini from Altoe, then from Luca Engsler and Florian Thoma. Plamen Kralev an excellent 5th, and then Giovanni Altoe in 6th position. With Abreu, Comte, Poti and Burri the top 10. There's not really anyone out of that top 10 I would expect not to be there, except for Josh Files. I know my drivers, that seems to be Stefano Camini. Of course, he is the reigning TCR International Champion, car number 1. Of course, not competing this weekend because, of course, he's not eligible. We're giving advice to the Target Competition team, which, of course, are running Josh Files and Giacomo Altoe in their pair of Hondas. Just saw a shot of Ollie Kangas. Now we see Luigi Ferrara. And what can he do to put himself into the top 10? Well, he's done the fastest first sector of anyone else. Gone purple in sector 1. He moves up to P9 with that lap, 1:21.302. He's still just a fraction over a second off the fastest time set by Tarquini. And the man himself goes across the line also. Now, we've just got a notification on screen that Sandra Pilati, number 53, has had a warning flag for track limits. So they're certainly pushing it out there. Get to the limit and beyond, but that's what you have to do in TCR and in touring car racing. Find the limit, and then once you overstep it a little bit, you can then pull it back and say, okay, That's running to be on track limits. And then away you go. Here's Ollie Kangas. Very talented Finnish driver. Oops, and that's one of the Seats in the gravel. That is Denis Grigoriev in car number 77. He's gone for a spin. I can't quite tell exactly where that is on circuit. But that, of course, has brought out the yellow flags, and that, I'm afraid, looks rather beached in the gravel. I don't think Denis is getting out of that anytime soon. Oh, I just lost it under braking. That's exactly what sort of happened to Aurelien Comte earlier on in free practice 1. But I'm afraid that was at the end of the straight before the quick right-left chicane. And that, I'm afraid, I think will be Grigoriev's session done. So that will mean that any fast laps will have to be sort of carefully respected and aborted in some cases, because with the yellow flags, you can't seem to be going quickly or on a fast lap in a yellow flag zone. Thankfully, Denis appears to be perfectly okay. He'll just clamber out. And the only thing that would bruise might be his pride, possibly, after putting it into the kitty litter. Quickly scampers away to safety. So the yellow flag's out at turn 4. And Grigoriev behind the barriers and looks on and thinks, well, let's not do that again. There is Giovanni Altoe. He should be one of the leading drivers in the internal competition, which is going on for DSG gearboxed cars. And Altoe was the quickest DSG car in the field in free practice 1. And there is the classification. Grigoriev was actually second quickest in that standings, from Palati, Tolkachev, Dionisio and Capellari. So there will be a separate points contest for those cars. So potentially we could be seeing 2 Altoes on the top step of the podium in both races. So of course, because of the yellow flags, Ollie Kang is taking it nice and steady in his bright yellow number 4 Seat Leon. And Luigi Ferrara has actually gone up to P6 throughout this session, so he's now gone to a 1:21.115. So the current standings, as we come to the last 10 minutes of the session, are Tarquini from Altoe, from Enxler, from Toma, Kralev, Ferrara, Giovanni Altoe, Francisco Abreu, Comte, and then Putti. Josh Files, I think either he's still betting in brakes or he's just taking his time with this session. There is Josh. And enjoying himself here this weekend. As we say, he normally runs with Pyro Motorsports. So he's normally used to a slightly different Honda Civic. It's obviously both Honda Civics are exactly the same, but of course this is run by different teams, so he's just getting used to that. And of course having Giacomo Altoe as his teammate, and that's a very formidable combination, and it wouldn't surprise me if we get at least one or even both of those cars on the podium. But there's some very rapid Volkswagens out there that will have something to say about that. And of course, you cannot count out Gabriele Tarquini either. So some of the teams just using this opportunity to change tyres, and they'll check tyre pressures and gain some crucial feedback from the drivers in terms of how the circuit's feeling, how the car feels, how the tyres are performing. They'll download the data, as you can see, to drivers' right. Of course, the mechanics out with the laptops getting all the important telemetry to try and just improve the setup of the car. But of course, they'll only have about 3 hours or so to look after that. Anti-Buru's been pushing on those brakes, the brake pad steaming away. So race cars do tend to go through brake pads pretty quickly, as the marshals and the recovery team quickly respond to hauling Denis Grigoriev's Seat out of the gravel trap at the chicane. And here's the replay again, just coming up behind Palati's Volkswagen, and then once it goes into the gravel like that, you, my friend, are bedded. And so he is now being dragged down to the gravel, and hopefully the yellow flags will be withdrawn and the last few minutes of the session can go on pretty much uninterrupted. Grigoriev, one of 2 Russian drivers in the field. The other one, of course, in the same team is Lev Tolkachev, and both drive for the Innocenti AMG Motorsport team. As Josh Fars does make it out onto track with just over 8 minutes remaining in the session. And I don't think he'll stay in 19th place in the standings for much longer. The only man who hasn't been out in this session I can see is Giovanni Berton in the number 55 Audi RS3. But Josh, I was talking to Josh yesterday in the amongst the test sessions, and he actually said that he's very happy racing in TCR Germany. In fact, the words he said to me were, "I would happily continue going in it year on year on year until I die," basically. So he's much a fan of TCR Germany, but he has had some options. He would dearly love to go to TCR International, and so a good performance here to cap off the year would certainly help that out. And Josh, of course, making a name for himself. And who knows, maybe he may make 1 or 2 guest appearances in the TCR UK Championship next year when it will visit some of the UK's best circuits. It'll head to the likes of Silverstone and Brands Hatch and Donington Park, and it'll certainly be an incredible contest in a country that does have a big appetite for touring car racing, and that will only satisfy it even more, I'm sure. There is Sandra Pilati, I think getting some advice from Mr. Kamini, I believe, as Josh Files comes across the line. It looks like he'll go on to begin his first proper flying lap here of the session. And now the circuit's been a lot more rubbered in. It's a little bit warmer, as you can see. It's not as cold and misty and very gloomy looking as it was earlier this morning. The mist has cleared away. The sun has made an appearance and track temperatures have gone up ever so slightly. More importantly, there's a lot more rubber on the track, and of course the more rubber that goes on, the more grip you have, the harder you can push, potentially the faster times you can run. Now that's the other of the Innocenti AMG Motorsport Seats. That is Lev Tolkachev, which seems to be in strife of some kind. So it hasn't been a good session for the pair of Russian-driven Seat Leons as Josh Files negotiates the chicane. Just glancing the tyres on the inside. You can tell they're pushing. And you can tell he's really pushing because it's a fastest first sector of anyone for Josh Files. Personal best in Sector 2, of course, as it is his first flying lap. It's not the ultimate fastest, but I'm expecting to pop up somewhere pretty high in the top 5. He will, of course, be in contention for pole position. So out of the final couple of corners comes the 99 of Josh Files onto the pit straight. And let's see what he's got up his sleeve. Files crosses the line and goes straight to second quickest, 120.263. He's only 0.003 of a second away from Tarquini's ultimate fastest time. And there is time in the session. He can go quicker if it's possible. We have had a 119 earlier on this morning, as Luigi Ferrara also ups his game. 120.529 to go P5 in the Alfa Romeo. So that'll please the Italian fans. 3 drivers in the top 5, separated by Josh Files and Luca Engstler. And there's only 3 cars I can see out on the circuit, with that being Files, Ferrara, and also Ollie Kangas in the number 4 LMS Racing Seat. And there is Francisco Abreu. Haven't seen too much of him in these first couple of sessions, but seems to be ticking along very nicely. Currently sat in 9th quickest. And there is the maestro himself, Gabriele Tarquini, just taking a moment to relax and catch his breath back before he heads back out, possibly for another couple of quick runs at the end of the session. Now, as for Files, he hasn't quite matched the pace of his first lap, but of course, just winding it up a little bit so that he can practice a qualifying run. It'll be a 2-part qualifying system, which we'll explain as we get to the qualifying session later on this afternoon. Files comes across the line, and his lap time there was not too far away. He was less than a 10th away from that fastest time. So even in those first couple of laps, fairly consistent. Ferrara comes across and remains P5, but he did personal best in sectors 1 and 2. So, big lockup. You could hear it there on the as he snatched the front right, heading into the left-hander of turn 1. There is Aurélien Comte chasing down Maxime Putti, who improves his time and goes to 8th quickest. We've got Comte coming across the line, can't go higher than 11th. And that time, which was he did improve, sorry. He stayed 11th, but his lap time was quicker, my apologies. 121.222. So not about 0.04 of a second away from the top 10. And some very experienced outfits. Of course, WRT are no strangers to these cars, and of course to top-level motorsport. They successfully run Audis in GT racing and had many success in many great championships and endurance events. So bringing their expertise to another arm of the Volkswagen Group is certainly being beneficial. There is Florian Thomas, 6th quickest in the session, 120.779. I don't think we've seen his true pace just yet, but we'll have to wait and see. Josh Files, meanwhile, has done a personal best sector 2. Can he get himself quickest in the times? Ooh, not quite. He was once again away by just about 0.04 of a second. So very consistent lap times from Josh Files. That will give him confidence going into the race. So Ferrara remains 5th on that lap. Potti is going quicker. Personal bests in the first 2 sectors. So let's see what he's got up his sleeve. Can he improve on 1:21.057? It looks to be he'll certainly get a 1:20, but how far up the top 10 he'll go? And the answer is not very, because he goes into 1:20s, but only 1:29.65. So no, he's still got to find at least another 10th or so, and it's a lock up from him. So a lot of drivers snatching a break into turn 1 after a very long run down the pit straight. There's Giacomo Altoe. I think he feels he's done enough of this session and just conversing with friends on the pit wall. As the session has just over 2 minutes left to go. So Tarquini from Files, from Giacomo Altoe, from Enxler, from Ferrara, which is this man on the screen right here. So that's 4 different manufacturers in the top 5. Very impressive. The highest Audi is still Plamen Kralev, the Bulgarian from TCR Italy, and Gabriele Tarquini has also ventured out just to get a bit of a feel for how the car is before they have to get... Oh, and goodness me, there's a lot of vibration on the front left tyre from Tarquini. That does not seem right at all. So whatever that is, that's causing a major issue. So hopefully that's something they can solve for qualifying. It was vibrating like crazy as he came under brakes. Now whether that's something like a brake issue, as Ollie Kangas goes a little wide after locking up into the second to last corner. But he has been going quicker in this lap. Personal best in sector 1. Across the line goes Ollie, stays 17th, but he does improve his time, 1:22.666. The spread between the times, quite impressively, is, apart from Daniele Capillari, I'll get his name out eventually, is 2.5 seconds. So very competitive field here. Just shows you that some of the finest European drivers in TCR are all here this weekend that are eligible to compete, and this should be hopefully a very interesting and competitive and entertaining contest. So as the target competition mechanics work away on Giacomo Altoe's car, last couple of lap times will come in, and as I expected, Tarquini's car has come straight back in, because I'm not sure if it'll ever catch a replay of that at all, but that was a lot of vibration on that left front, so that's hopefully not too serious a problem, which may hinder Tarquini from pushing on in qualifying. Josh Files looking to, I think he'll get one more lap in here, or he may decide to abort it. But this could be him just working on maybe more race pace, but it looks very strong indeed if this is how quickly he can lap, 1:20.427. So he's putting in the consistent lap times here, keeping to about a 1/10 of a second or so. We'll get one more crack at a flying lap here. He may get the aid of a tow from Antti Buri down the back straight off of turns 1 and 2. As the checkered flag comes out on the session, free practice 2 is done, but anyone else on a lap is allowed to finish it, including Josh Files. So out of the left-hander at the end of the back straight. Potti comes across the line, finishes his final flying lap with a 1:21.474 as Luca Enxler converses with his engineers to find out what the situation is. But the smile on the face seems to be that he's pretty happy. P4 in the session, and his teammate Florian Doma, P6. So good running in that second session there from the Liqui Enxler Volkswagen Golfs. Josh Files continues to push on, using all the circuit and a little bit more as they come up towards the final couple of corners. Now, either he'll finish this lap, or he will decide that it's better to back off and head into the pit lane and get the car prepped. And yep, he aborts the lap into pit lane, following in Daniele Capillari. And so even though it is free practice, maybe some of these lap times could be a little bit more indicative of what we may see in qualifying later on this afternoon. I see that also Kevin Giacon has had some warnings for track limits also, so he's got to be careful going forwards into qualifying. But smiles all round by the looks of things up at target competition. They're pretty happy with their cars second and third. And looks to be just 1 or 2 cars left on circuit, and that is, of course, Antti Buri. He could be someone that could surprise. Only 12th in the session, but we'll see his true ultimate pace come the qualifying session. So there's the classification on the bottom of the screen. Tarquini quickest. We'll give you a proper full rundown in a moment's time with the on-screen graphic. But nice to see a couple of the drivers you may not have potentially expected to be up towards the top, particularly Plamen Kralev has done an incredibly good job up in P7. I'm very impressed with him in the Audi. And he is, in fact, the top placed Audi. We've got about 4 of them in the field, and he is the fastest so far. Then it's Anti-Buri in 12th place, and then the other 2 Audis down the order, which is Hermano Dionisio in 18th place, and Giovanni Berton, who did not set a lap time in this session. So as the cars make their way in, there's some more questions to be answered for the teams as they continue to work away on the setups. And of course, later on this afternoon, we have the all-important 2-part qualifying, which starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Here's the classification. Tarquini, top of the tiles by 0.003 of a second from Josh Files. Then Giacomo Altoe and Luca Engsler from Luigi Ferraro in the top 5. Then Florian Toma, Plamen Kralev, Maxime Putti, Giovanni Altoe as top DSG car, and Francisco Abreu rounding out the top 10. So lots of strong drivers in the mix, and only separated by less than a second, so it's very competitive, down to 11th place with Aurelien Comte, then Anti-Buri, Kevin Giacon, Denis Grigoriev, who ended his session in the gravel trap. Then we've got Sandro Pilati, Lev Tokalchev, Oli Kangas, Hermano Dionisio, and Daniele Caparardi, with no time for Giovanni Berton. So an incredible second session once again. All the drivers will be preparing for qualifying later on. Here's some of the highlights from free practice 2, and of course join us again in a few hours' time when the all-important qualifying session takes place to find out who will start on the front row of the grid and on pole position for the first race tomorrow of the TCR Europe Trophy for 2017. For myself, Scott Woodwis, Norbers here at Adria International Raceway. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later on. Bye for now.